Hmm.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, Suman.
Good morning. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome you all. Day 11 of uh, ongoing work surrounded by idiots. We have read adopting different behaviors last week, and we continued how to deliver the bad news. Yesterday, for giving the feedback, yesterday we read about how to give feedback to red people, and today we are going to continue the same chapter, giving feedback to the different colors. So let's start with how to give feedback to yellow. If you have patience, please type your name in the chat sections. Those who want to read next, and we will continue reading further. Yellows are great at many things. Among their great attributes is their love of change. Ideally, they would change things all the time. You would think that accepting feedback can be a way to start changing the things that need to be improved. In particular, negative feedback is a great way to find out how to raise your performance to a higher level. But this is not quite the way it works with yellows. In fact, that is not how it works at all. When it comes to change, yellows are certainly in favor of it, but only if they came up with the idea themselves. Criticism from the outside is not always well received. Jani, a good friend of mine, is a phenomenal entertainer. That is not a group he can't amuse. Give enough space. His stories are usually fantastic, and during dinner out, they come. A whole succession of jokes so that he has everyone rolling in their eyes. One joke after the other, and the whole thing is extremely entertaining. Jani is truly funny, no doubt about it. But, and it isn't significant, but he dominates everyone else in the room. No one else gets a word in edgeways. If you try, he stops and drones you out because he doesn't see you as partner in conversation, but rather as his audience. After a while, the laughter falls silent and things start to get uneasy. Those of us who know Johnny understand that this is due to his desire to constantly demand center stage, while for others, it takes more time to see through him. At a dinner party once, it went so far that people started talking about Johnny behind his back. I felt bad for him, so I decided to take the bull by the horns, make an agenda, follow it. The first thing I had to do was prepare myself. Just sitting down with Johnny and speaking from the heart about the issue was not going to work. He would just take over the conversation and lure me off the track. So I decided to give a few concrete examples. I also wrote down exactly what effects his behavior might have on people, and I tried to anticipate all his objections. On one occasion, Johnny was helping me in my garden, and afterwards, we were sitting in the yard, sweaty and exhausted, each of us with a beer in hand. He had just told me about a trip he took to Spain and how frightened he was when the boat that was taking them to tiny island where they were staying almost capsized. His wife had already told me that they hadn't even gone by boat. They had taken a small local plane. But when he stopped for breath, I seized the opportunity. Johnny, I said, we need to talk about a serious problem. You talk too much, and you make things up. I know that what you just said is not true because I spoke to Lena and she said that you flew to the island. This has to stop or you are going to end up on bad terms, bad, bad terms with people. Jenny started at me as if I had lost my mind. I don't talk too much, he said, a little bit surprised. And even if I did, it would be because I have lots to say. I actually remember a time when I put up a hand in front of his face and moved it quickly back and forth. It silenced him. I went straight on to the next step. Give very concrete examples. At the last party we had together, you spoke more than 50% of the time we were sitting at the dinner table. I timed you. We were there for 2 hours and you held court for more than one of them. You laughed, he said, now quite grumpy. At the beginning, but if you had been more observant, you would have noticed that it was only at the beginning. And afterwards, I heard several people commenting on your need to take center stage in rather negative ways. This made Jani really indignant. What ungrateful people! There I was, entertaining people, and what do I get it for it? Sheer hostility, a stab in the back. I'm not evaluating what they said, I said, but I noticed that they thought you were talking too much. Do you understand what I mean? It's incredibly important to get the LO to acknowledge and accept the message. If you don't recognize the problem, you don't have to solve it. What did Johnny do? He nodded modestly. I thought things were going rather well after all. Then something very strange happened. Okay, I would like to hand over to Anjali, please.
Thank you, Rajesh. Be aware that his ears might not be connected to his brain. I understand that you were bored, he said. You are right. I have told some of those old stories way too many times. I need to stop repeating myself. I shook my head in despair. He had totally missed the point. I said, there's nothing wrong with your stories. You just need to cut down on the number of them. Take every third one. Skip 2 out of 3. The problem is that you talk too much, not that you repeat yourself. You have to let the other 7 people around the table speak. But he wasn't listening. He began telling me a new story just to check if I had heard it before. I had to repeat the whole thing. Explain that you don't dislike him, only his behavior. Criticizing a yellow is difficult because they take things personally. If everything isn't ice cream and sprinkles all the time, then there must be a problem somewhere. They think you have suddenly become enemies. And Jenny reacted in the same way. He physically moved several inches back away from me, a clear signal that he was upset. So I did what you do with little children. I explained that he was still my friend, probably my best friend, and I thought he was really funny. The only thing I wanted was for him to bury the blabber a little bit. He had just gone overboard a bit. I told him at least 10 times that I liked him very much. Unfortunately, he is a frightfully bad listener. So I had to remind him of all the fun things we had done together and that I cared tremendously about him. I flattered him and congratulated him on his choice of a new car. I simply manipulated him a little bit at a time. He began to thaw and his body language became less defensive. Prepare yourself for a strong defense mechanism, especially the martyr complex. But even that wasn't enough. Jenny came back with his comments like, nobody likes me. Everybody else is much more entertaining. I thought you thought I was very funny. This was in addition to all the usual defense mechanisms, of course. He was only keeping the party going. It was everyone else who was quiet and boring. What was entertaining about an introverted wallflower? And talking too much? How was that a problem? On the contrary, it was actually a very nice quality. I pointed out that his performances left no room for others to speak or participate. A concrete example. At the latest dinner, Jenny's wife Lena was asked a question on 5 different occasions, and every time it was Jenny who answered. In the end, it was almost ridiculous. Everyone noticed this except Jenny. Lena stopped talking completely. But she took so long in answering, and I knew the answer. He understood nothing, or he chose to deliberately be slow on the uptake. Ask the person to repeat what you have agreed to and follow up as soon as you can. This is easier said than done. Both times we met right after our conversation, he was on the alert. At one point, he remained silent during the entire party. Sure, it was a childish way to point out his misery, and it was clearly obvious that he was about to burst with frustration. Not allowing him to talk was like denying him oxygen. And what irritated him most of all was that no one around the table asked why he wasn't saying anything. Couldn't they see that he was putting up this show for their sake? What happened was that his wife began speaking more, and people really enjoyed her conversation because she was so pleasant. After a while, Jenny went back to his usual self. It was the easiest way. He saw no direct benefit from keeping quiet, and Lena fell silent again. In Jenny's case, I valued our friendship more than trying to change his behavior. I never took up the issue again, but sometimes I take Jenny breaks. I simply need to have a good rest from him. If he had been a co-worker instead of a friend, I would have followed up several times to ensure he really made a change. Conclusion. Despite their flexibility and creativity, yellows are actually the most difficult to change. They don't listen and only implement changes that they themselves had thought of. What you need to do is massage their egos as much as you can bear and put words into their mouths. It's worth remembering that their short memories also apply to hard feelings. Although they feel awful when criticized, they soon forget. They simply repress everything that is difficult or unpleasant. So, if you can just cope with the groans and moans and maybe a few tears in between, you can continue towards your goal, achieving a change that will do you both a world of good. With patience and perseverance, you will eventually succeed. How to give feedback to a green, but think twice before you do. This is the section I would rather skip. Why? You may be wondering. Simple. Criticizing a green can be cruel. They will feel bad and will simply withdraw and shut down. In general, they have weaker egos and can often be very self critical. You don't want to increase this burden even more. It's important to note that there is a difference between being self critical and changing and being self critical and not doing anything about it. Many greens roam through life wishing that things were different, but they rarely have the drive to do anything about it, so they continue to be dissatisfied. Sometimes I think that's an end in itself, not to be satisfied. It's a way to get some attention, to gain some power. I know many Greens who control everything and everyone in their families by simply refusing to do anything whatsoever. Psychologists call this being passive aggressive, a very apt expression. However, if you would like to give feedback to a Green, here are some methods that might work. Just make sure that you are really committed before you get started. Give concrete examples and use a gentle approach. Of course, it's always good to be concrete. The difference here is that a green actually listens, which both previous colors did not. A green hears what you are saying and dislikes what he hears. But you have to be concrete, and you might be able to do this in the same way as with reds, but in reverse. While it doesn't work to tell a red that you feel bad because of his behavior or that others feel ill at ease because of something he did, that's precisely what works best here. A green is a relational personal and doesn't like to offend. It may seem manipulative, but if a certain form of behavior makes you sad, angry, or just generally dejected, say that. A green person will sense your mood and he'll pick up what you are saying if you dare to be honest about it. Be gentle, but don't backpedal. It is all about clarity again. If you have any shred of humanity, you will see how a green falls apart the more you give him negative criticism. If you say to your partner that his constant habit of sitting in front of the television, watching sports such as football, makes you feel completely neglected and unloved, you will immediately see how much this news affects him. But then it's important that you not backtrack on your statement and say things like, maybe it's not that bad, or I still have some projects I have been wanting to work on while you relax. Dare to be clear and go straight to the point. You need to convey your message in the right way, clearly but softly. A hand on someone's shoulder can be enough to send a signal that we are still friends, but I have a problem when you do this or that. Deal with the green's response. You are right, I'm so stupid. Total appeasement. A green's reaction when you tell him how you feel about his behavior is a variation on the yellow's martyr complex. A green will prostrate himself, accusing himself of being all kinds of stupid things. Often there will be comments like, I will never do that again. Severe compliancy is sometimes unavoidable and tears may flow. Greens crush themselves with additional arguments about why they are useless and stupid. They will kneel to your presence for weeks afterwards and try to placate you in all kinds of ways that have nothing to do with the issue at hand. I heard a story about a man who was told by his wife that she really hated that every single evening he simply had to spend a certain amount of time playing video games, a creature of habit. He admitted that it was childish, unnecessary, and costly. He spent a considerable amount of money buying upgrades and features for the games. He promised to be more attentive to her needs. He promised everything and more besides to make up for his dismal behavior. The following 6 months, he hurried home from work to do the cooking before she arrived. He bought her flowers once a week and he massaged her feet without her even having to ask. Very sweet and very appreciated, except that he didn't actually do what she asked him to, namely to stop playing computer games. He had avoided accepting that particular detail. After all, he had never promised to stop straight away. Okay. Suman, you want to read from here?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Anjali. Be sure to explain that the behavior is the problem, not the person. As with yellows, dealing with a green is like dealing with young children. Daddy loves you, sweetie, but can you please stop eating ice cream on the sofa? The risk is that the negative feedback will damage your relationship with the person. But you can easily solve this by quickly coming back to the person with good news and positive feedback. In this case, it is not enough just to say that you are only concerned about one problematic issue. You need to show in action that you are not planning to assassinate him. He must be reassured by what you do, not just by what you say. Ask the person to repeat what you have agreed on and follow up. I have noticed that Greens don't always write down what you say to them. So it is good idea to check with them to make sure you both have interpreted the conversation the same way. If you have a colleague and would like him to be a bit more punctual, make sure he understands that the only issue is his timekeeping. He may very well have gotten the idea that you were actually upset about something else entirely. We often assume others will behave the same way we would in any given situation. And because Greens can be quite vague when they speak to others and often avoid talking about the real problem, they frequently get the idea that you are really talking about something else. They never go straight to the point themselves. So they assume you haven't either. So, what could you possibly be so unhappy about? Make sure you are both in agreement about what the problem is and follow up. We are talking about changing something and creating a new pattern of behavior. And as usual, Greens will try to solve the problem by doing nothing. Make sure that does not happen. Conclusion: if you are human, which I think you are, you may have a guilty conscience and think that you went at the green guy way too hard. I remember one occasion when I argued with an employee because, in my opinion, she didn't do what she was supposed to. Her reaction was to completely fall apart, and she didn't come to work for 2 days. When we spoke about it afterwards, it turned out that I had not actually asked her to do those specific tasks. I would just assumed that she looked at things the way I did. I can admit that at the time I was an inexperienced and ineffective boss. I made a classic mistake. I looked at the situation through my own glasses and became furious when her glasses showed something else. And when I realized this later on, I felt quite ashamed of myself. She looked so distressed and went out of her way to avoid meeting me. For a long time, I barely dared to say much more than hello and goodbye to her. She did what Greens are good at. She ducked down and did even less work than usual. Many Greens have an uncanny sixth sense that tells them when it is time to take things extra easy. But here it derailed. This woman did virtually nothing at all because she could sense my guilt and hesitation. She simply took advantage of my bad conscience to get away with it. I lost her completely. In the end, she was laid off because she didn't do her job, and I was severely criticized by my boss because I had not dealt with the issue. Make sure that you don't make the same mistake I did. Don't let things go too far. Address the problem while there is still time. So stand up and deliver the negative feedback even to the friendly greens in your life. How to give feedback to a blue. But first, just a word of warning. Before you try to give negative feedback to a blue, for Peter's sake, make sure you know what you are talking about. Let me remind you that a blue knows exactly what he has done, and he has a far better eye for details than you do. So make sure you have your facts ready before the thought even enters your mind. The section that follows deals with how to deliver feedback, but the biggest task here consists in finding out the details of what happened before you give any feedback. It may be a good idea to check things out with several other people who are involved in the issue and to document what they say and the facts they offer. The blue will be able to quote everything and everyone, and he will always have proof that what he did was correct. After all, that is why he did it. If it had been wrong, he would not have done it. Make sure you are armed to the teeth before scheduling the meeting. Provide specific, detailed examples, preferably in writing. It is not good enough coming in with sweeping phrases like, I think you are walking too slowly. Can you please speed up? That is way too general. It doesn't matter if you are right or not. The phrase working too slowly Says virtually nothing. Says who? Slowly in relation to what? What you need to do is point to the specific, accurate, and detailed examples. You need to say things like, the latest project took 16 and a half hours too long. Then add up the effects. I missed the line. Yes, what you need to do is to point specific, accurate, and detailed examples. You need to say things like the latest project took 16 and a half hours too long. Then add up the effects this has had. We can't charge the customer for those 16 and a half hours, which means that profitability has now fallen by $4,125 per hour or whatever you charge. This is a message that a blue might take into consideration. If you were to present it this way to a yellow, it would never work. But for a blue, this is an extremely relevant piece of information because it requires detailed feedback. It would be risky if you were just to present it in a conversation. You need to have everything written down. Blues have a certain degree of distrust when it comes to people talking too much. The written word automatically becomes more true in their eyes. So write down what you want to say, but double check everything. And why not actually ask someone else to check the numbers before booking your meeting with the Blue Slow coach? Do not get too personal if you don't know each other that well. A yellow and a green boss could easily pat a blue on the shoulder and be personal in the run up to a meeting where they are planning to give some tough negative feedback. The reason is simple. They know that they would react very negatively themselves if someone we were just to jump straight into criticism without softening them up first. This is the worst way to approach a blue. He will just get suspicious and won't listen the way you want him to. Think about how a Red would have done things. He would simply have booked a meeting, sat down, and shoved the paper with the negative result at the person. If he had such a paper, if it was about giving feedback to a neighbor about all the leaves that have blown into his garden, he would simply hand him a garbage bag with all the leaves and ask him to count them. A Red won't dress things up. He gets straight to the point. Usually, he won't have any problem telling you that your work is not good enough. Having a project drag on is inexcusable. And because he hoped that everything would be finished a day earlier and not a day too late, he is now deeply upset. Yes, Pranvi, you want to read? Yeah, or should I go on?
Yeah, I can take from here.
Yeah, yeah, please.
Okay. Stick to the facts. If you want to get through to a blue, you need to stick to concrete facts. Each time you start feeling guilty about saying negative things and start speaking about how appreciated he is, you you will confuse him. He will wonder what you are really trying to say. He has no ego that must be inflated, and he will see right through your attempts to sugarcoat the criticism you really have. So stick to the facts. Don't don't try the famous sandwich method, used quite extensively by many managers and leaders in order to diffuse and soften a grave message. You have lost too many customers, you have cost us money, you have been rude to Ben in reception. You should also say positive things. You are a valued employee. You usually do the right things. I like you very much before and after the piece of criticism. The problem with the sandwich method, commonly known as praise and blame, is that no one understands your message. What did you really want to say? For a blue, this will be particularly incomprehensible because the positive feedback you wrapped your message up, up in was relational and perhaps emotional, not professional. Remember that he is not there to be your pal. He is there to do a job. Be sure to talk about that. Feel free to ask if he has any suggestion for improvement. Use words like quality, evaluate, analyze, follow up. Simply use the language he used to. You will get through so much more easily. Be prepared for the counter questions at the molecular level. Of course, he won't buy what you say straightway. Surely it's reasonable to give him the chance to ask some questions about what you have said. There's a risk that you will face a host of counter questions that will make you feel like you are the one being evaluated. How do you know? Who said that? How have you calculated these? Where does it say that it must be done that way? Why can't I find this information on our intranet? Why did you wait until now to give me this feedback? Can I have a look at the supporting documents? Where is the contract that regulates our billing? Are you sure we we can't add 16 and half hours to this bill? Has not this been done before? I recall a customer 4 years ago who you might not be able to answer all these questions. So you must simply decide how deep you want to go. You can always say, that's just the way it is. Go back to work now. But this is the worst thing you can do. At least if you want to keep his confidence. The only thing you have proven is that you have not kept track of the details. Ask Ask the person to repeat what you have said and follow up soon afterwards. When I hold seminars on leadership, the issue of giving feedback is often raised. It's an extremely complicated subject because we allow our emotions to direct us when we give feedback and receive it. But for blues, I give the same advice as I do for other colors. Ask your blue employee to repeat what you are agreed to. He needs to duly acknowledge that he has seen and heard the same things you have said. It is very likely that he will be able to repeat everything more or less verbatim, but it's just as likely that he has not taken the message to heart. If you were vague in your delivery or too fixed on protecting your relationship, he understands that he should repeat what he knows you want to hear him say. But this is not the same thing as him believing your negative feedback was relevant. The example I gave of the overdue project is a treacherous hidden trap because a project that is delivered to a customer only has the value the customer believes it to have. Quality is of the utmost importance. If we are careless, according to Blues standard, we won't get more orders from that customer. What will the lost revenue cost? So, how can you value punctuality as being of more importance than the product itself? At the logical level, Blue can make your objections seem nonsensical. But if you know that you are right, not just that it feels right, follow up afterwards to make sure that he is back on track. Conclusion. It's difficult to criticize a perfectionist. He already knows the best method and he won't change his opinion just because you happen to have a fancier title on your business card. So it's all about doing your homework very well. You also need to remember that although it may be difficult to get a blue to respond to feedback, he has no problem criticizing others. Remember, he sees all the mistakes everyone else makes, and he will likely point out your mistakes when you least expect it. Not because he is being vindictive, but just because you have botched up. Should we continue to next chapter?
No, no. We are going to read the next chapter, Who Gets Along and White Books, because it go for uh, Who Gets Along. I think right. This will be go till one.
I think it's a three-page chapter. We can cover three.
Okay. Yeah, we can. Vidya, would you like to continue? Would you like to read?
Yeah, I can. No problem. Who gets along and why it works? The short answer is that a group should consist of all colors to create the best possible dynamic. In a perfect world, we would have an equal number of each color. The yellow comes up with a new idea, the red makes the decision, the green has to do all the work, and the blue evaluates and makes sure the results are excellent. But this isn't the case. Not infrequently, we find yellows in positions better suited to reds, or in the worst cases, they have been able to talk their way into a job that actually requires blue behavior. Indeed, there are many examples of people who are sitting in the wrong chairs, and part of the explanation lies in the fact that their core behavior. Uh, s- Sorry, I'm getting 1 minute. I'm a little lost now. I think too much of scrolling. 1 minute. Or in
Yeah,
the
I
in
missed.
the worst cases, they have been able to talk their way into a job that actually requires blue behavior. Indeed, there are many examples of people who are sitting in the wrong chairs, and part of the explanation lies in the fact that they lack the natural prerequisites to manage their jobs. Moreover, all this has to do with what driving forces different people have.
Vidya, we don't hear you.
From their core behavior in specific situations. But that's a whole other topic, and not something I cover in this book. So how do you put your team together? Look at the picture on the following page. Here you can see why certain combinations are more suitable than others. If you are recruiting members to your team, this this may be a good place to start. So you have this diagram where you have complementary combinations, task oriented and issue oriented. So blue is task oriented, green is again the vertical axis is challenging combinations. So blue being an more of an introvert, passive and reserved, green being also in that space, more of an introvert, passive, and reserved, but more used to challenging combinations. Red and yellow being in the extrovert, active implementer. And in the relationship spectrum, you see blue and green being in the relationship side, and which seems to be a natural combination. As you can see, different colors work differently together. Again, there are plenty of options, but if no one in the group has any knowledge of their behavioral pattern, some colors will naturally work together. For instance, it is generally easier for two people to work together if they have the same sense of tempo and work at a similar speed. Natural combinations. If we look at the diagram above, we see that blue and green could be a suitable combination without much of an effort from either of them. They would certainly recognize in each other's ability to breathe calmly and to think twice before doing something. Since both are introverts, each of them feels secure with the other. It's the same kind of energy. No, neither of them will build castles in the air before because they prefer to keep both feet on the ground. They don't stress but allow themselves to dive deeply into things. Sure, they may find it difficult to make decisions, but the decisions that they do will probably be well thought out. Similarly, red and yellow work smoothly together since they both want to shoot from the hip and always move forward. Here, we also have the same kind of energy, only a different type. Both are powerful and outgoing, and because both are verbal, they can easily find the same words. Certainly, they'll have a different focus in the conversation, but the dialogue will still flow. Both set high goals and think quickly. A team of yellows and reds will set a fast tempo, and while they are both clear about what they want, they'll motivate those around them to achieve great things. The challenge probably lies in the fact that a red can perceive a yellow as being too talkative, but since neither of them is a world class listener, they'll both just switch off when it suits them. Complementary combinations. It also works to look at the other axis and make pairings based on each color's focus. Both blues and reds are task oriented. Reds are certainly more interested in the result than in the process itself, and blues are more concerned with the process and tend to ignore the result. But they are at least speaking the same language. Both devote themselves to work and only spend limited time chatting about football and home improvement, except maybe at lunchtime. They would complement each other in a good way. If we liken this to a car, a red is the accelerator while a blue is the brake. Both are needed in order to drive successfully. The trick is not to push both pedals at the same time. Similarly, there is some logic. Similarly, there is some logic in placing a green with a yellow. The tempo at which they work will be different, but both of them will be curious about each other. Both believe that that people are interesting and important, while one likes to take it easy, the other likes having fun. They'll easily find a similar focus. The green will allow the yellow to take as much space as he wants. One talks, the other listens. It can work out well. In addition, the greens are good at climbing down the slightly hysterical yellows who sometimes have a hard time staying grounded. Of course, there's a risk that they'll fail to devote sufficient time to the work itself, but they will have a very good time. People around them might feel that they are only having a good time and actually not actually delivering anything. As both can find it difficult to say no, it might be a good idea to avoid entrusting them with too much money. Challenging combinations. At the same time, there are two very complicated combinations. This doesn't mean that they won't be able to work together, but it definitely means that there are obstacles that need to be considered. One possible solution is that both of them become more self aware in the ways that they work and interact with each other. Look at the illustration on the following page. The right column shows the person himself shows the things the person himself sees in his profile. The left column shows how his exact opposite could perceive him in less favorable circumstances. You've probably heard that a person is a real bore, only to meet him and discover a very interesting person with lots of interesting things to say. Who's right and who's wrong? It depends on whom you ask. The problem lies in the interaction between each color and its exact opposite. The positive image expresses how each profile experiences himself. The negative image is the expression of how he can be experienced by others. We all see different things. Um, so you have blue analytical, can be perceived as negative, critical, indecisive, narrow minded, fastidious, and moralizing. Positive aspects would be diligent, thoughtful, serious, persistent, demanding, methodical. Red being the dominant color can be negatively perceived as pushy, strict, tough, dominant, hard. Positively, strong willed, independent, ambitious, determined, and effective. Green being the stable color, negative traits could be stubborn, uncertain, compliant, dependent, awkward. Positive could be supportive, respectful, obliging, reliable, pleasant. Yellow being inspiring, the negative traits could be manipulative, hot tempered, undisciplined, counteractive, egotistic, and positive could be inspiring, stimulating, enthusiastic, dramatic, and outgoing. Genuine problems. It it would be quite a challenge to put a red and a green together. Uh, Issues solve a problem. If the task depends on effective cooperation, then issues will quickly arise. In the beginning, the green is very passive, especially when compared to the red, who gets going even before he's heard the instructions. When the green thinks it's burdensome to have to do their part, the reds have already started in a hurry. The red will be very critical of the green's constant moaning about the amount of work. At the same time, the green will think that the red is an aggressive son of a bitch who never listens. Nevertheless, under favorable circumstances, it may work out. In general, a green is prepared to cooperate, that's their strength. They function well with many other people because they are more accommodating than demanding. So there can be a certain logic in setting a red with a green. A red likes giving orders, and a green is usually okay with receiving orders. Based on Marston's theories, the greatest challenge of all is to ask a yellow and a blue to work together. If neither of them is aware of how their personalities work, there will be friction from the outset. The yellow dives into the task without the slightest idea what to do or how to do it. He doesn't read any instructions and he doesn't listen long enough to find out what the task is actually about. He'll speak at great length about what an exciting project they've been given. In the meantime, the blue starts reading and researching all the material available. He doesn't say a word, but just sits there, more or less motionless, he thinks. The yellow, on the other hand, will consider him to be the most uninspiring bore he has ever met. The blue, on the other hand, will only be disturbed by the yellow's perpetual verbal barrage. He'll slowly begin to boil beneath the surface because of the incessant buzzing around him. He believes that the yellow is a frivolous windbag, not deserving any attention whatsoever. And when the yellow finally realizes that he hasn't won the blue over to his side, he'll pull out all stops and talk even more. In the worst case, he'll try to charm the blue, which will end up driving them to disaster. They'll sit in their own corners with faces like they've tasted sour milk, both mad for completely different reasons. Self awareness, my friend, is the solution. Go green. It's not easy to read and interpret everyone. If a person only has one color, then you won't have any problems with him once you finish reading this book. It will be obvious what you should do. A person who is only red or only yellow is hard to miss. But even the genuine greens or blues are quite easy to detect if you know what to look for. As I mentioned earlier, statistically speaking, only about 5% of the population has just one color, and that shows in their behavior. Around 80% have two, and the rest have three. No one has four, not with the tool that I use. It's also relatively easy to recognize people who have two colors. Two color combinations normally follow any of the axes, so they are blue red, red yellow, yellow green, or green blue. It does happen, of course, that purely opposite qualities can be found in one and the same person. I've met lots of yellow/blue people. There is nothing wrong with that. It's just less common. But that's what's really unusual is distinctly red/green profiles. Why this is the case, I don't know. On one occasion, I met a woman who was a middle manager working for a company in the car industry. She was determined and powerful in her manner, but at the same time, she was extremely caring. Her care and attention for her employees was genuine and it had very strange results. Among other things, she would lose her temper very quickly. Her telling offs were legendary. Once she realized this, however, she would do whatever she needed to do to soften the effects of her actions and repair the damage. She felt genuinely bad for having been hard on various individuals, but at the same time, she couldn't control herself. This friction between two conflicting colors in her behavior, red and green, meant that she was very close to burnout. People with three colors will always be more difficult to interpret. If someone is very difficult to place on the map, it may very well be because he has three colors. The situation will determine what his behavior will be. The best advice I can give, if you really can't analyze the person you meet, is to shut your mouth and start listening. Simply act green if you are unsure. Perhaps people sometimes tell me that they can't understand what a certain person because he doesn't do anything. But even a person who is very passive exhibits some form of behavior. And at this stage, color you know what color is associated with someone who doesn't do much. That's a common blue behavior.
Thank you, Vidya. Thank you, Anjali, Suman, and Daniel, for the beautiful reading for today's chapters. And we have read a few more chapters. 1 minute, let me have a look for that. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Okay. Today we have read the chapters giving a feedback to the three different colors, giving feedback to yellow, green, and blue. And also we have read about it, how we get along with other different colors. Let's talk about, I think we have very less time. I think let maximum we can go till 8:10 and then we can wind up. Um, when we read that three different giving feedback to yellow, green, and blue, according to you, who is which color is the most difficult to give them feedback? Anyone would like to share? Okay, I feel this
Yellow.
person seems to be
It's blue, I guess.
yes, blue. When we go to the blue,
Yeah,
I
because
think we have to
blues
go
are the
with a lot.
perfectionist.
Yeah, we have to
I
go
feel it is yellow.
yellow. Yellow also, I
Yes.
think, see, yellow.
Yellow because yeah, they don't take, what I understood is they don't take anything. They are so talkative and they don't listen also. The moment you criticize, they start feeling bad. That as the example also, that person said, "No, I was entertaining and now you are blaming me." So I feel they take it as a blame, and they don't accept, and they have a very short memory as well. They forget it, and they come back to their own, means they don't take the criticism and they don't apply it. This is like what I understood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
coming to the blue, it is like they are already flow chart people, and all the options will be imprecise with them and very clear. I mean, unfortunately, they may go wrong. So when you try to point out that feedback, it's not that easy to handle it because 99.99% they will be careful itself. So it's very tough for them to, to make them to accept that this is a mistake done by you. And yellow, they may not accept, but then I mean, they're social and like happy going people. Though they might not receive, but then they may not reflect back with the seriousness. They're like, okay, kind of. And they may take some time to accept it. These blue people, no, they're like already careful. So I feel that it's a little bit tough to manage such kind of people.
Yeah, yellows may be wrong, but they will not accept. Blues, there are rare chances that blues are wrong. We can
Yeah. Yeah,
perceive
I
it this
think
way
the question
also,
is
yes.
how we are. I think whom we face tough time to give them feedback, or we are very cautious about it. So when you are giving feedback to the yellow, even if there is something wrong, you can manage the situation. Okay, something you can the people can understand.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
with that. But here, who are you, man? Have you checked this one? I have a data. How dare you can come and talk to me this? If there's something wrong from my side, when we are giving feedback, I think we will not be always right. Sometimes we may have some different opinions, different thoughts. But if we are not sure about what we are going to talk about it, they take it as very serious and give feedback or give back very strongly, or it will hurt the ego, all those things. That is what I felt. Any feedback, I think what the first chapter, whatever we have read about the giving feedback, I think I feel like the green character, green is smoother, right? I think there's not much drama there. We can go and relax. I think we can tell feedback with that person. Okay, the person seems to be
They're
listening.
all like Buddhas and,
So people can, even if there is something hard, from the person who gives feedback, okay, let it go. What do you want to say? Let me listen. Have you done? Okay, carry on. Any thoughts about giving feedback from the different colors, or do you have any personal experience would you like to share?
For the best possible dynamics to have or to live in synchronicity, I feel that we need to surround ourselves, if we have a choice, with the combination colors at least. They work best.
Yeah, I think we'll come to that one. I think but this say what I just
the
wanted to
thing
complete.
is, you need to learn to how to adapt with this kind of personalities, because every personality is needed in the case of the progress of our goals or our work or whatever. So you should be aware, and you should have the clarity of thinking ki which personality is what and which color. And after knowing that, we need to make conscious efforts to get adaptable to them. So that's what I learned from this.
Yeah,
Yeah, the writer was saying that 80% population have two colors.
no, I'll come to that section. I think I have to come. I just want to finish that the first chapter, then we can come to that get along. I understand something we are discussing that. So giving a feedback, when you're giving a feedback to Elo, start with something appreciations and the praise, then they will start to listen, and let's have a friendly approach, an encouraging approach. Then we can give a feedback, the person will start to listen. And when you are giving feedback to green, be gentle and patience. Not, I think that is something if you go with something explosive way or something very commanding way, that won't work. Go with that type patience and warm and calm tone. There we can get along, and you can give feedback to the green people without much trouble. And when you are approaching blue, go with the factual, there is no emotional required. Be calm and detailed and structured basis, so that persons can understand, can listen. Okay, this person is coming up with something good information. I have to follow or I have to take it up. The person will listen. So these things will help when we are going to approach the different colors of pattern. Now let's move into that. The next chapter we have read the who they get along.
Rajesh ji,
Um,
before that, yeah,
hmm,
one for the red also. For red
hmm,
and blue, we have to be very clear and precise,
yeah.
because they both are goal oriented. So the method, that sandwich method, doesn't work with these people, red and
Uh,
blue.
yeah.
Yes, so that praise and criticism, the praise and blame method doesn't work there.
Mhm.
But with the yellow and green, it works
Yeah,
effectively.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you have to keep for the yellow, you have to keep their enthusiasm, their energy intact. And for the green, you have to maintain their calm and their
mm,
trust intact. Then it works. But for the red, you have to be very, it has to be very clear with the facts, and for the blue they feel like they have been manipulated. Both these colors, na, they easily feel you are manipulating or sugarcoating the things, so they have to be very clear. So there, that sandwich method doesn't work for criticism.
Yes, yes, essentially. Thank you for sharing your inputs. How we can give the feedback to the different color traits. Now let's quickly jump into that, and the next chapter what we have, the chapter 14, who gets along with heads along and how why it works. Other clothing, that's one point he mentioned that only 5% of people have only that one color traits, and 80% of colors, 80% of people have a mix of the two color traits, and the remaining things, multiple having three colors, the remaining people. And also he clearly mentioned that one thing, none of the people in this having all four colors mixed up. And he also shared about how we can think, he has nicely, he shared the diagram that how we get along with the different colors. Anyone would like to share how we can get along with other things, the mix of traits, or the next chapter, whatever we have read?
So, what I understood about dealing with others is, like, if you are unable to understand which color category the person belongs to, he said go green. Just become silent, stay calm. That is the best strategy. And see, many times people are a combination. In fact, a red also becomes quite humble in a situation where he cannot be a leader, and it is difficult to recognize if it is a green or a red, because internally they would be exploding, they would be having all sort of aggression, everything, but externally they are very silent and calm, composed. So it is very difficult to understand those people, either giving criticism or being in a team or working together. It is difficult. So in such a situation where we are unable to understand, it's better to be silent and stay calm and become a green. That is, compose a calm posture, and like handle it silently or in a harmonious manner, where everyone is like, you are reading how they are behaving. Because see, yellows have great ideas, many ideas, and they work only when it is their own idea. They don't work on others, they don't execute others ideas easily. So it might be a challenging situation to work in such a atmosphere where you don't know exactly which person which belongs to which color. So in that situation, become silent, become calm. That is what I understood. That self-awareness is the key to handle everyone. Aware of
Yes, and
ourselves, that which color category I belong to. If I know myself that I have these traits, and I how I will be like, how people can work with me. It is vice versa, na? Either I am working with others or others are working with me. So if that thing is understood, we can handle the situation very well. So self awareness is the key for me. This is what I understood. This is my takeaway from this.
essentially, if everyone's self-aware what they are, and how, if they are understanding other color traits who are along with them, then there is no problem at all. But some situations arises that the situation cannot be handled. Other people will express in some different way of expressions, and they behave in different uh, characters. At that time, how we react, that matters a lot. uh, Being calm and composed, maybe I think this may work with blue and green, but sometimes it may not be work with the red and yellow. They're always little expressive and explosive. Uh, Here we can talk about all colors. They can connect with that. I think they can get along with the green, but there are some colors they cannot. They are not able to get along. Um, any any other thoughts? The last chapter. Okay. So the red category, they are get along with that yellow, because they are, I think they can understand, they can energetic and they can understand. And green always, they are calm and tolerant. But they have a challenge. The red people have challenge with the blue, because if they go with some information, if they don't go with that proper statistics analytical, then they get get backfire. So the red, they have to be very careful about when they go and get along with that the blue. Yellow people, they can connect with red and green, but again they have a clash with the blue. I think the blue has a clash with the many things. Even that the yellow can frustrate. I think they can frustrate the red as well. I think the green is the one place is a peacemaker. They can get along with any colors, however they come up coming up. If the situation makes uh, how they're taking decisions. And the blue, they can get along with the green and the red because they have confirmations. But the problem, the blue getting along with the yellow would be a little challenging because of that over energetic and excitements. They may not be able to connect with the blue. Okay, so we have here opposites don't have to attract; they just have to understand. If we approach each colors, the conversations will become better, and whatever we want to communicate, we can make it better way. If you don't accept it, or the opposite persons or opposite color traits, then there'll be problem arises, and it makes the situations not in favor way. With this, we come to end of today's sessions. Anyone the closing message would like to share? Any thoughts about the last chapter? Yes, Manish, take it.
Not really this chapter, but I just want to, honestly, I have not very interested in this book since very beginning. So what I just want to share that, I wear every color, right? I go to a specific brand or something. So wearing that color, it doesn't change my nature. So, just sharing my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Manish. Thank you for your inputs. Okay, James, thank you so much for joining, and I would request everyone to join sharp at 7 o'clock, and let's try to complete the session by 8 o'clock. I don't want to exceed more than 8 o'clock because of we complete reading 7:50, 7:55. We have to extend a little more time. Let's be careful, cautious about closing the meeting, starting the meeting on time, and closing the meeting on time. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us this morning sessions. See you all again tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. See you.
Yes, thank you all. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, Rajeshi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Bye.